Hello, beautiful friends. This is an official Happy New Year. Here we are, 2025. As much as many of us can say time is an illusion, the calendar is an illusion, I believe it still means a transition. This transition has been a little bit different. So in this video, I want to talk to you about how you can have incredible amounts of energy to make the creations, the changes that you want for this year. What are the challenges that have been following us from the previous years? So take this video as an energy read for this year. So we're going to talk about why we're being so exhausted, why the old ways to feel more energized, to reach your goals are not working anymore. What is the invitation for all of us? Because what I'm going through, many of you are going through as well, because it's something that the collective is going through. So grab a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, sit back and enjoy this energy read for the year of 2025. So here we go. First, I want to talk about this level of exhaustion that we all have experienced. I don't know about you, but this exhaustion I have been experienced for about 3 years. We know well big shifts start happening around the pandemic. And many of us who sat together, teachers, coaches, that were going in and meditating and really connect with truth, we all agree with one thing. The pandemic was the beginning of a huge shift, and that was just the beginning. And this last few years have been very challenging, very hard for many of us. Why? Because we've been dealing with the dismantling, with the deconstruction of fear. As you heard me saying in the previous couple videos, I'm making a big statement. I'm saying out loud that this is the end of fear. It's the end of us living in survival, and we need to, because we don't need to be living in survival. If you have a roof over your head, you have food on the table, you have people in your life, you're still breathing, you are not in survival. And yet our brains, our nervous systems have been living in survival, and it makes no sense. It is absolutely no sense. And we need to break these patterns. So by breaking these patterns, we've been going through a lot of discomfort, a lot of death, a lot of grief. So let me break down what it means. What is this exhaustion all about? This exhaustion, number one, is the result of our society, our culture being in this chase for what is enough. Chasing the next goal, pursuing more money, pursuing more status. It's this constantly wanting more. We became a very well-known society all over the world for being the high achievers. And there's beauty in achievement. But what we've been experiencing in the last few years, I would say, is the shadow of high achievement. What is the shadow of high achievement? It's that sense that it's never enough. And we went from pursuing things we love, pursuing from our hearts, to pursuing from our egos. And this pursuit comes from this illusion, this false belief that we're not enough. And with all the media, all the propaganda, and this is not conspiracy theory, this is about profit and money. We live in a society that is very interested, big corporations, the big money machines in our society are very invested in us still believing that we are not enough. Because if we hold this belief that we're not enough, that is going to make us keep consuming, buying a bigger house to make us feel enough, buying the next car, the next model to make us feel enough, having more money to make us feel enough, right? So it keeps us spending a lot of money that we don't need to be spending. So what would it be like to be investing money in the things that truly give you a return, like energy? It's the only thing we can really manage. We can manage time because we can stop time, we can slow down time, we can go back in time. We can manage most things that are happening in life. We have about 5%, and that being, I think, kind to say we have 5% of control, and what happens with the rest of the 95% that happens every single day in your life, we don't have any control. And yet we have control one thing, or energy. What is depleting, draining your energy, or what gives us energy, what helps us to restore. So for many, many years, the core of my teachings has been about energy management, managing your mental energy, physical energy, emotional, and spiritual energy. And today I'm going to introduce the fifth element of this energy, the fifth body of this energy. If we call those four bodies of energy, I'm going to introduce the fifth one, which is the sum of all, is what is in our magnetic field, is this energy that is invisible, is the energy that comes directly from source energy, from the universe, from the cosmos, from the field, from God, if we will, from Christ consciousness. Is this energy that comes from this power that is much bigger than us and that we cannot explain. And yet is the energy of creation, is the energy that makes an acorn become an oak tree. Two cells coming together to create a life in the body of a woman. So as much as we know biology, as much as we know physiology, there's the mystery. And this is the time for us to embrace the mystery, to wake the mystic within us, because that will be your highest source of energy, as I'll be speaking through this video. So let's go back and speak why we have been so exhausted. Number one is because the old paradigms, the old ways of living, the old constructs that were created out of survival are dying. The whole concept of start your year, write down all your goals, visualize all your goals, work on your goals every day, work hard, hustle, that will guarantee the American dream. If you live in America, that will guarantee happiness and success for you. This model is dismantling. This model is exactly the model that is exhausting everyone, that is leaving people in such a deep state of depletion, of depression and anxiety, because anxiety is the other side of the coin of depression, despair, and disease. So why this model is dismantling? Because if this model doesn't get dismantled, we are going into self-destruction, which we kind of already in the path, but there is time. There's a new timeline. There's a new way. There's a big group of us walking away from this belief of hustling, working hard, sacrificing, and thinking that we're going to get our energy more from food or from supplements, from pills, from medications. No. There is a much more efficient way to get our energy, and that's what we're learning. So exhaustion is coming from this place of constantly doing. Another reason we have experienced a lot of exhaustion is our own resistance to let go of these old models, is our own stubbornness of still trying to use these models of goal setting, hustling, to bring some comfort, to calm down the anxious part of us. And anxiety creates a lot of control. So control is an aspect of this exhaustion, is organizing your entire life to help you to feel secure and stable. So what we are resisting is this illusion that safety and security is in our achievements. Is the money, is the house, is the family, is that job in that company, is the status, is that promotion, is a certain president that is there. Our idea that safety and security is outside of us is dying. That was the ego model. And it worked for many, many years. But now we are being offered, we are being invited, and almost like I would say forced to wake up, to not being fueled by our ego's needs anymore, by the survival brain. Now it's time for us to be fueled by our soul. Follow our soul calling, not our ego calling. So part of the exhaustion, again, comes from this hustling, comes from resisting that the old model is dying. And another aspect of exhaustion that might be surprising for you to hear is grief. 2024 was a year of grief for many of us. I experienced tremendous amount of grief. I experienced grief even in last week during the holiday season. I was here with a big head cold, and I was forced to really go deep inside because I couldn't do anything. I went into deep rest, and with that, I encounter more grief, and I allow myself to cry, I allow myself to feel. So let me explain this grief, because we associate grief with the death of somebody, or when we lose somebody to a breakup or a divorce. Yes, you experience a lot of grief in that too. I experienced a lot of grief. I lost my cat last year, which was extremely hard for me. But this particular grief that I'm talking about is the recognition that many of us are a certain age and we're not living the life that we thought, that our egos thought we would have by now. You'll be married, have children, have a certain amount of money, or be retired, be traveling the world, whatever that is, whatever your dreams were. We all had that. I had my dreams when I was in my 30s, of what my life in my 50s would look like. Then I had an idea in my 40s what my life in my 50s would look like. I had an idea even 5 years ago what my life would be looking like today. And guess what? It doesn't look like that at all. Because I was measuring the success, the progress, and making those dreams based on material, based on external things. And I did not achieve a lot of the external things that I thought I would have by 50s. So when you get to a certain age and you realize, oh my God, I'm not living the life I thought I would be living, and you really allow yourself to feel the emotions, grief is an emotion that comes up. Some people might say, well, that is more disappointment than grief. But deep disappointment, physiologically in your body, is going to feel like grief, because deep disappointment is still associated with loss. So it's this sense, and of course it's not real, but it's still an aspect of the ego that we need to honor. It's a sense of the loss of a dream. I had a moment last year when I realized that I had to let go even my own attachments, my ideas of dreams, and it brought me a lot of tears. Also, a lot of people experience grief, or are currently experiencing grief, because they're doing a lot of inner child healing. They're healing their past, they're healing their trauma. So you experience grief by realizing that you didn't have the childhood that you wanted, that you deserve it, because every single child deserves to be nurtured, to be held emotionally, to be supported, to be seen, to be heard. And when people are healing their trauma, they realize they didn't have any of those aspects that create a healthy and nourishing childhood. So there is grief in that process. There's also the grief that a lot of us suppressed. Maybe you went through, the divorce of your parents. I lost a little brother when I was 6 years old. My parents got divorced, and I lost my father, and my mother wasn't available. So when you start healing that old pain, you finally get to feel the grief. And grief is a very important emotion to be felt. It cannot be rushed. There's no such a thing like, when would this be over? You gotta allow that grief to pass. That feels like sadness. And, grief comes in waves. You can have a great day, and then all of a sudden you listen to a song and you have a thought, you see a picture on your phone, and all of a sudden that grief comes in. So grief has been part of this process of us being very exhausted. So to summarize, it's resisting the death of the old paradigms creates exhaustion. Trying to use the old models to achieve the same goals is exhausting. To think that you have to be hustling, pushing all the time, you're not resting, you're not relaxing, that's creating exhaustion. And processing a lot of grief. So those are the main reasons why we've been so exhausted. We've been going from following the ego, and now we're moving into an era that we must follow the calling of our soul, of our heart. I say my soul, it's right here, living in my heart. So I use the same words as the same. I'm not saying the physical heart. I'm calling the spiritual heart or soul. So let me give you a little theme, which I believe, after meditating a lot about this new year, what 2025 is really about. I'm not big in numerology, but I realized I couldn't help to put the numbers together and see that 2025, if you add the numbers, creates a 9. Is a number 9. And 9 in numerology means completion. And I had a great conversation about completion with Glacier Rain. Make sure you check the podcast episode. We talk about what's going on in the collective right now, and it's going to be a great complement to this video. But 9 is a number of completion. So what I've been asking myself in my meditations, when I'm journaling, it's what is being completed for me. And there are many things that are being completed. Many paradigms have totally shifted for me. My perception has changed a lot. Is the end of fear. And when I say it's the end of fear, don't misunderstand me. This is not about I'm not going to feel any fear anymore. I'm going to experience current fear. Yes, but I'm not carrying fear from the past. And I am not making choices out of fear anymore, because those are choices of the ego. The ego is always in survival, always living in a state of protection. So if you have your whole life made choices out of fear, and we all have, now is the time that everything is shifting. And again, this is the dismantling that I'm going to speak about a little later in this video. So this is a year of completion. If we think about what started happening during the pandemic, for many of us, our lives broke down completely. I went through completely breakdowns, loss of business, loss of relationships, loss of a beautiful home in the mountains, loss of a certain lifestyle that I had, ability to travel a lot. There's a lot of, let's say, loss and breakdowns in this last 4 years. Loss of income, loss of, for many people, retirement accounts. So there's been a lot of death, a lot of breakdowns. And the breakthroughs, I believe a lot of breakthroughs are going to happen in 2025. And I have to say, through a lot of the breakdowns that I have gone through the last 4 years, the bright side of that, the blessing of that, is that I developed incredible spiritual resilience and spiritual stamina, which are very necessary during these times. So a lot of us are coming to a state of completion of like a lot of deep healing. And I'm not saying we're done healing. We're going to be healing for the rest of our lives in this human form. But there's a sense of like all that childhood trauma has, it's done. I see that more for myself as completion, as I've done tremendous forgiveness work, forgiveness around my mom, around my father, around my family, around myself, and anybody that I used to say that caused me harm, but also a lot of people that I cause hurt and harm. So there's a tremendous journey of forgiveness from your letting go. So there's a sense of completion. And what 25 is about as well, it's for all of us that being in the trenches, doing this inner work. And for you, the inner work maybe is you being, you start a business, or you start a family, or you take care of an elder parent, or your child is going to college. There's some sense of transition completion for you if you really pay attention to your life. And all your hard work, whatever that has been, trust that you're going to collect the fruits this year. And I'm talking more about your efforts, your work in your spiritual development, in your personal growth, in your healing. I'm not talking so much collecting fruits because you've done all these money investments and you're going to collect. It could be for you, but I'm talking more in a spiritual level. That if you are in the trenches, like many of us, letting go, doing the inner work, doing the healing, this year you will collect a lot of the fruition of all this hard work. So that's a message of hope there. And this year is also, the call is going to get even louder for us to connect with our truth. So going back to the exhaustion, if you still hold the old models of survival, living in your ego, being pushed, fueled by your ego, you are out of alignment with truth. And alignment is a big word for this year because the calling is for us to become very aligned with the truth of our hearts. What is true in your heart? Like, is in your highest truth being in this current relationship you are at? Isn't your highest truth being in this job that you are at? Isn't your highest truth the people that you spend time with? Isn't your highest truth the lifestyle you're living right now? This is so important because whatever is not your truth is going to fall apart, has already been falling apart. Maybe that's why you can find that job that you're looking for because you're just doing for the money, for anything you're pursuing out of fear, it's not going to work. Anything you pursue out of fear is not going to work because we are living in a different frequency. We are living with different energies, different model. The invitation here for all of us is to go back to our truth. What is our truth? How can you make choices starting today that are in alignment with your deepest truth? And that is terrifying. Living in our truth, just sitting and asking yourself, what is your truth? If you're living in your truth, what would it mean in terms of making change in your life right now? And I know this is terrifying because when you sit with your truth, you might hear words like, you need to leave this relationship, or you need to stop talking to this friend, or you need to stop talking to your mother or your father or your family. You need to set boundaries, or you need to quit your job, something. And this kind of changes are terrifying because it means leaving the old, which for the ego means, for the ego, it's an illusion. It means safety and security. And we know well that that is not true because the only safety and security are inside you. So if truth is connecting with your heart, with the calling of your soul, anything that is not your soul's calling is going to fall apart, is dismantling. And what has been different about this last few years, as everything is accelerating, is that this dismantling is happening, in my opinion, my experience, at a much faster rate. And again, there's a reason for it, because if we don't start dismantling these models based on the ego and survival and fear, we're going to destroy ourselves and our planet. And I believe, as an optimistic, as somebody who is tuned in with the voice of Source and also connect with other amazing teachers who are tuning with the truth, there's still time for us. We have the ability to create a new timeline, a new level of consciousness that is going to start making big positive change in our planet. And it involves more of us doing this work, more of us connect with our truth. And that's the reason I'm sharing this video entirely for free here, to hopefully offer you some comfort if you're going through this dismantling, this deconstruction of the ego right now. So 2025, it's about completion. It's about collecting the fruits of our inner work, all the hard work of releasing and forgiving. It's about connecting with our truth. And the number 4 is choice. Choosing love over fear at every minute. So this requires you to slow down. And before any decision, ask yourself a simple question. Am I choosing this out of love or out of fear? And if you don't pause, you're going to be living in reaction. You're going to be living out of your old program that's going to lead to the same results over and over, which goes back to exhaustion, depression, depletion, despair, disease. So where in your life right now you are experiencing deep levels of depletion or depression or despair or disease, those are the signs that, life is giving you to pause and reflect in what is your truth. So as the false is falling apart, as alignment is what's calling us, living in alignment with your truth, which also means living in alignment with source energy, with God, with creation, with your highest self. This process, like I said, can be terrifying, and it brings a lot of discomfort. It can bring more fear, actually, because it's an uncharted territory. Think about when you just living out of the ego, doing the same things over and over, using sheer force, pursuing, controlling, trying harder, working harder, hustling. You are in the model of the ego, and it's predictable. It's predictable because you live in this illusion that you are in control. But it's an illusion because you're not in control. And you might be convinced that you're in control because if you do X, Y, and Z, you're going to get the result for sure. But let me ask you this. Are things working out the same way they worked in the past for you? Maybe 10 years, 5 years ago, even you used this formula and you got results. Is that working out for you still? I bet many of you would say, no, the old model is no longer working. Why? Because this new frequency that is about opening your hearts is the frequency of love, the frequency of heart, don't have any resonance with models that are operating in fear. It's like a completely different note. It's a completely different sound. If the frequency of love, let's just play a number. If the frequency of love, let's just play and say it's 700 hertz, and you're playing a song that is 300 hertz, it's not going to hit a chord of love in truth and in manifestation anymore, because it's not the right frequency. So in this process of healing and letting go, forgiving and operating from love and not fear, we start vibrating in the frequency of source energy, of Christ consciousness, of creation of the universe, where everything is possible. We open the field of potential and possibilities. And in the field is the field of the unknown, because if you bring what you know, you are not in the territory of unknown. And God, creation, operates in the territory that is unknown. So the question is, are you willing to let go everything that you know and dive deep into this field of not knowing? I'm working on meditation to put on my website very soon. It's going to be very cheap, affordable for everyone. That is a meditation to help us to feel safe and secure in this unknown territory. Is to really lean into this place that I don't know, which is a deep place of surrender. More about that later. So as the false is falling apart, I want to warn you that you be experiencing a lot of discomfort. You be experiencing your pain. You be experiencing those old wounds being dissolved. So let me share a little guide here. 3 aspects 3 guidelines that will help you to navigate this process of dismantling and deconstruction. The number 1 guideline, I'm going with the assumption that this content is resonating with you, that you feel these big shifts of consciousness, this big shift in our collective, and you are saying, yes, I want to participate in this shift, because I laugh at this. Everyone is going through this. Everyone is going to be pushed to shift. And the question is, you can voluntarily raise your hand and participate in this process and gain a lot of wisdom in this process and even have a sense of humor in this process, this journey. Or you can carve your heels down and resist all you want. But again, the more you resist, the more exhausted you're going to feel. And that exhaustion again leads to depletion, to depression, to disease. So here's my first guideline to go in this process, which is your mindset, is your mental state. Use your mindset to make a choice. The word choice is very important right now. Choose to see everything that is happening in your life as it's working for you. So it's just going with this assumption, this conviction every day, no matter how bad things might be, because good or bad is a judgment, is the duality mind of the ego. No matter how bad things are you willing to adopt the truth that everything is working out for you? Everything is working out for you. And in order for you to really live your truth and live the beautiful life that you're worth of living, the old needs to go. You don't have space. We don't have space in our lives for something new to come if we're holding the old. We gotta let the old go so we have space to hold something new. So choose the mindset that everything is working out for you. This will help you to strengthen the muscle of trusting, that no matter what, you trust. And my friends, this is not easy. It's easier said than done. But because we have the ego, we have this deep conditioning that made us believe that we have control, that we are the masters of our lives. Yeah, we are the architects of our life. And yet, you have to let go the whole idea that you have for what the architecture looks like. So this is really about mastering your energy, your internal energy. It's about control, it's managing your inner world, not the outer world. You can highly influence how you feel inside. You can choose to trust it, no matter what. To trust there is a force, there's a power much bigger than you that is orchestrating everything. And the more you lean in, you surrender, you trust, the easier would be. So that's the number 1 guideline. Choose the mindset that everything is working out for you, because this will help you to develop spiritual stamina, spiritual resilience, because this is not about the resilience that you're just going to pull your sleeves out and you're going to go and work hard. The hard here is much different. It's about spiritual stamina, which means a lot of times you won't do anything and you just allow. It's just like allowing the storm to pass. Find shelter, allow the storm to pass. And the storm might be your emotions. That's what I'm talking about here. The emotions of anger passing by, the emotions of fear, the emotions of grief passing by. So this will help you to develop the tremendous necessary spiritual resilience and spiritual stamina. The number 2 guideline that I have for you is, this is a process of purification. So you're going to go through healing and transformation. That means old emotions, old trauma will rise in your body, will rise from your basement, which is your first, second chakra, and is going to come to your heart center. And when it comes to your heart center, you need to feel in order to heal. When the fear rises, welcome. When the grief rises, welcome. When the anger, especially anger, so many people are suppressing anger. When the anger rises, let it pass through your heart. I had a great podcast about anger with Ashley Frost. Make sure you check that podcast about anger, how to allow the anger move through your body, because it can unleash tremendous amount of life force and energy for you. So the second guideline is about saying yes to process of transformation and trusting that these emotions are temporary and it's just the old repressed and suppressed emotions coming forth so you can be purified. It's purifying your heart, it's purifying your body, it's purifying your mind. You have to go through this process. There's no shortcut. There's no magical pill. So part of this awakening, this big process of living in alignment with truth, is letting go whatever is not truth in you. And all the baggage that we hold in our bodies is not our truth, because it's keeping us living in the past based on something that doesn't even exist anymore. It only exists in the tissues, in the organs, in the bones, in the cells of our bodies. So it needs to be liberated. Anything that you locked down to the basement in your childhood or 10 years ago through your divorce or breakup, whatever it is, in this process is going to rise. And trust that your body is so intelligent, your higher self is so intelligent, that anything that rises inside you is that you're ready for and also you can handle. Your body will never release more baggage, more old emotions that you cannot handle. Your body knows. So if you experience anger, it's because your higher self is saying, hey, it's time to feel this anger. And as always, work with a guide. You can work with me, work with somebody that you trust, somebody that is trauma-informed, somebody who has a deep, strong spiritual practice, somebody who is grounded to help you in this process. So that's the guideline number 2. And this guideline is so important because it's going to help us as we release all this baggage. It's going to help us to move from victim consciousness, which I'm going to make a whole video about it, victim consciousness, to empower consciousness. Now, I'm not talking about this egotistical empowerment movement that is also about arrogance. And it's about, it's very based on the body. It's very based on the ego. I'm talking about true empowerment. True empowerment feels strong and it feels humble at the same time, because the shadow of empowerment can be arrogance. So if it's coming with arrogance, meaning you feel better than others, you're no longer in truth. Truth, true power, it's strong and humble at the same time. And it's the place that you really humble and you can say, I don't know anything. You just step into this truth of inside you. And so you're going to move from victimhood to true empowerment. And that's going to be, again, a whole different video. The third guideline, it's about your physical body. It's about you honoring rest. Prioritizing rest as much as you prioritize those meetings, those business deals, those business trips, working all the time. Rest, time to rest, to restore, to reset need to be in your schedule book. You need to give your body deep, true rest. Now, this is not a kind of rest where you sit on a couch and you watch 3 hours on Netflix, or you sitting on the couch reading a lot of difficult texts or difficult books. This is about true rest. And one of the best ways to attain true rest, of course, it's time in nature, time away from any social channels, taking a hot bath, like doing nothing. Like even if you're walking in nature, you can be in a state of stillness, in a state of doing nothing, even though you are walking. This doing nothing has to do more with an inner state. Because I can say, I thought, and that's one of the reasons I believe I got sick, I thought I was resting a lot because I was sitting a lot, but I was sitting, working all the time. So I wasn't truly resting. So this is about finding ways for you to create, to condition yourself, to cultivate true stillness, true solitude, quiet time. As Paul Chek would say, this is the Dr. Quiet. And for a lot of people, this is very difficult because most people in this pushing and hustling and being in survival, being in fear, your nervous system doesn't know how to relax anymore. So that's why the practice of meditation, prayer, or going to a silent retreat, going to a meditation retreat, just to condition, to retrain your body how to be in a state of stillness. And I know if there's a lot of trauma in your body, or repressed emotions, anxiety, this can be very hard, and there's a process. And I walk my clients through a process. There's many bridges. Sometimes if you have a lot of anxiety, you can't just go from anxiety to stillness. It requires training. So in a way, I am still the personal trainer with my clients because I'm teaching them how to cultivate calm and stillness inside, because that's what is ultimately deep rest. As I talked in the previous video, you can sleep for 10 hours and still feel exhausted. You can eat healthy foods and still feel exhausted because we are not in a state of deep, deep stillness, of deep relaxation. So if you need help with that, make sure you contact me, and I have many processes that can help you to create a state of stillness. So these are the 3 guidelines that will help you to navigate this uncharted territory. So to recap here, number 1, you must make a choice. Like Yoda says in Star Wars, there's no trying. A choice, you just make a choice. You go right, you go left, you make a choice. And the choice is to trust that everything is working out for you. And you cultivate that trust. You trust in something bigger than you. That's why this 5th element of energy, trust in a higher power, is so important. And this is what is going to ultimately give you the highest source of energy. Choice. Number 2, allow yourself to feel all these emotions that will emerge and rise. It's you metabolizing, processing all those old emotions that have been frozen in your body and causing you a lot of stress, depression, anxiety, lack of focus, and such. And number 3, honor rest, which is that deep state of stillness. So ultimately, again, this is going to be your higher source of energy. As I said in my previous video, our higher source of energy is not food, it's not water, it's not sleep, it's not the sunshine, and all those things are part of creating a healthy lifestyle. Don't get me wrong, we still want all those things because those things feed the body. We still need to own this physical body. But I'm talking about tapping into your true identity, which is you as a spirit. And the more you connect with your true identity of spirit, as you connect with truth, as you connect with God, source, creation, field, whatever you want to call, love consciousness, you unleash a tremendous amount of energy that you never experienced before. That is the highest source of energy. When you become out of alignment, you are depleting your energy. And when you're in alignment with source, you are high in life authentically. So this is what I want to share with you today. Make a choice to be fueled, being moved by your soul, by your heart, and no longer being moved by your ego. This is not the death of the ego. This is a purification process of the ego. You're not going to let the ego control you, because when you let the ego control, it's like letting a 5-year-old child to control your entire life. And worse than that, it's a terrified child. The ego is terrified. So this process of purification transforms the ego, so we can use our ego in this physical life to serve our soul. That's what we want. We want the ego to bow and to serve our heart, to serve our soul. So this is the long message I had for you for 2025. I think this is going to be an incredible year, and it's a year of more breakdowns and incredible breakthroughs. So whatever you are in this journey, just starting, or you feel a sense of completion, the message is the same. Keep walking straight, trust, collaborate with others, work with a spiritual teacher. If you need some assistance, I can guide you in this process. I guide many people. I'm going through this process myself, and it's heaven on earth. No matter how hard things are, you create heaven on earth. When you're in alignment with truth, it's heaven on earth. Let heaven show off, as Caroline Myss says in one of her books. Let heaven show off. Choose soul versus ego. Let the ego serve your soul. And I wish you an incredible year. Many blessings. And let me know on the comments below, how did this video resonate with you? What do you want me to speak more of? I will be creating a lot of more content this year. Let me know what you want to learn more of. And if you want to work with me, I am taking new clients. Just send me a message. Go to my website, contact me, book a call, and let's see if I can help you to thrive and flourish in 2025. Many blessings to you.